So I'd like to thank you all for coming to the Digital Users Group meeting. I think, Adam, you need to. And I just want to kind of go over how this is actually going to work and give you a quick intro for the day. We got about 2.5 hours. We're going to try and pack them pretty full. We have 4 speakers who are going to speak, and in between times, we're going to have a lot of our industry partners are going to come in and kind of talk to you about what they're doing in quick 10-minute types of presentations. What I've asked in the presentations that they be kind of focused to how they're addressing training and educational opportunities with institutions, private practice, and all the members we have in the education and of using of digital systems. Certainly COVID-19 has caused some changes. This is kind of automatic. I'm not going to introduce each person. We're going to kind of start and kind of go with the flow. I do have a break built in off and on, but basically it's mostly going to be just for extra space. So I'm hoping all the presenters will stay right on time like they normally have been, which has been very nice. In the meantime, we're going to all the panelists and all the questions. We have a Q&A session at the end, which will start about 12:05, 12 o'clock, 12:05. Come back then if you're going in and out. That's when you can ask any of the panelists questions in regards to their presentation, or if you have some general questions you want to bring up. It'll come in on the chat, so I'll go through the chat and I'll pull those up and ask those questions to the appropriate panelist, or just open it up for the floor for answers and questions. So without further ado, I'd like to thank Strawman, who's our sponsor for this program, and we'll go ahead and we'll begin with them. So Charlie and Steve, take her away.
Lead to the thought that we have a very, very narrow focus, but we've been very busy, particularly over the last 5 or 6 years with respect to strategic partnerships and acquisitions, et cetera. So in addition to offering the traditional implant line, as well as the prosthetic portfolio, we now have a lot more with regard to services, with regard to digital workflows. And if you haven't had a chance to look into what Strawman has been doing, I would say, especially over the last 18 to 24 months, we've got some really, really cool things that we've been working on and we'll be continuing to develop in the not so distant future. Just to name a couple here, Loop, for example, is a really innovative communication tool that helps to facilitate and foster good real-time transfer of files and communication between specialists and referring dentists, referring labs, et cetera. Another highlight is our Smile in a Box project, where if you are in this example, a university setting or institutional setting, maybe either the residents or the in-house lab tech does not have all of the skills necessary to plan these complex cases, whether it's from a stackable guide conversation, or even something as simple as your single unit guided surgery with prosthetic available same day of surgery. So you can outsource design services to our Smile in a Box team. You can outsource production. The nice thing about this service is it's, think about it like an a la carte menu, where you can truly outsource whatever you want or keep in-house whatever you want from design, production, et cetera. So if you don't have the design team, we can do that. If you don't have the in-house production capabilities yet, then we can certainly do all the production at our facility just outside of Dallas, Texas. Go ahead and advance the slide, Steve. Just a very high level snapshot of some of the companies that we've acquired or partnered with. And even in the last 12 months, we have quite a few more names to add to this that we need to update. But again, just to create the realization that Strawman is expanding into all aspects of dentistry, and our goal is to be the overall leader in the complete workflow. Go ahead, Steve. I put the slide in here. Again, if we're thinking university or institutional setting, there are almost countless permutations of what you can create in terms of a digital workflow, whether it's on the dental side, the traditional lab side workflow, and you can create all sorts of overlaps and connections going inside one flow and out of another, et cetera. Sometimes this can almost feel overwhelming. And I have conversations with institutions on a very regular basis, and we've outfitted numerous institutions with, you know, the most complex workflows that you can imagine, or, you know, something as simple as just dipping your toe in the water and then sort of going with the flow as we continue to progress in the future. But I guess the point is, there's really nothing within our workflow that you cannot accomplish when it comes to full validation. Certainly from a regulatory standpoint, you know, everything has been buttoned up top to bottom, so that, you know, when you get either our software or our products or our equipment, everything has been vetted, it's been trialed, and that means on the user end, you can expect things to go pretty smoothly and fit exactly as planned. Go ahead, Steve. And then obviously in the institutional setting, you know, we realize budgets can be a bit of a challenge, especially depending on whatever the economic situation is. So my driver in the conversation is never about equipment, and I can promise you, I have to talk, you know, many institutions out of buying, you know, a large lump sum of equipment. You know, some of the institutions will approach us and say, hey, we have this large chunk of money, we want to buy this and this and this and this. And, you know, in my opinion, and I've been, you know, around long enough to know what works and what doesn't, it's very difficult to do a large sort of a big bang purchase and make sure everything is integrated in a short amount of time. The more responsible way is to, in many cases, piecemeal it together. So starting with something, you know, as simple as an intraoral scanner and maybe software, and then as you continue to progress through your workflows and as you become more comfortable with digital, then we can add other things together to it as well. And don't feel like you can't participate in this if you don't have in-house production capabilities, because we have a really nice state-of-the-art production facility just outside of Dallas with, you know, millions of dollars worth of milling and printing equipment and design teams, et cetera. So whether you're doing things in-house or to start maybe outsourcing it to us for centralized production, there's always a workflow, always an option for you at the university level. Just a time check. So appreciate the time. Thank you, Dr. Grant, for giving us the forum to say a few words here. Happy to sponsor the event, and we'll be around for questions at any point later on.
Thank you very much, Charlie. So you guys see there's a couple.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Montero. I am a faculty member of the School of Dentistry at UFL. And first of all, I would like to thank the ACP for the invitation, and hopefully my thoughts and my experiences will help you guys handling the digital files in your school or in your practice. Okay, I'm gonna give a little bit of a background so that you understand which softwares and hardware I use. So I am the course director for the preclinical fix courses. We are using the PlanMeca Romexis Compare software and E4D Nivo scanners to grade the students on their crown preparation competencies. Okay. So we are going to go through these topics really fast because we don't have a whole lot of time, but these are the main topics that we're gonna address. FERPA, student confidentiality, HIPAA conflicts, stored data limitations, local versus online file storage, and updates and upgrades on hardware and software. Okay, we're gonna start with FERPA. So I've been working with the scanners and with Compare software now for a few years. and it has been a learning curve. We started storing all the files on a server, on the university server, which that led us to a few issues with FERPA, since it was designed where you have a folder within a folder, just like you or most of the people have files in your computer. Okay, students were able to access these folders, not only their folder, but also other students' folders. So that's why we moved to OneDrive, which is an online file storage provider. For those that don't know exactly what it is, it's very similar to a Dropbox or Google Drive, where there is a website where you create an account and you have basically like a cloud where you can store files. One benefit of this system is that the account is linked to the university email address. So once the student graduates, we can block the account and get rid of it. Although we can also, with the faculty, we can also block at any time any student from any given folder. So as I just mentioned, students and faculty are individually invited to each of the folders. So we kind of avoid the FERPA issue where a particular student cannot access the other student folders. It is very easy for faculty to access files when grading, since this is an online cloud platform. We can access it from your phone, from your iPad, from your computer, at home, on a coffee shop, wherever you are, where you have access to internet, which compared to having all the files in a server is a little bit more complicated, because you will have to be within the university, and especially for the students, in order for them to turn in assignments, they need to be in the school, having the option of them turning in at home or wherever. It's very beneficial. Specific permissions are given to students and faculty on each of the folders. So not only they will have access to the folders that I share to them, but also each user will have different permissions accessing or looking at the files. As you can see, this is a screenshot from OneDrive, from the different permissions you can give each user, which you can go from a full control, which will basically be just like a folder in your computer where you can upload, download, modify, edit, and you name it. Okay, so we have those options that they come with OneDrive. And if you see, the last option is a custom-made permission option, where in my particular course, I like allowing the students only to upload and view the files only. And I find this easier for me, because the students, they can only upload and then see what they uploaded. There is no issue with, oh, my file erased, oh, I didn't notice that I took it out, and stuff like that. So they just know, they just post and that's it. I'm gonna explain a little bit how I structure these folders. This might be helpful for some of you. So basically, at a department level or administration level, they make a master or main folder for each of the classes. In this case, class of 2023. And then within that folder, you create a folder for each of the courses given to that particular class. At this point, each of the faculty involved on each of the courses are invited and given the permissions to each of the courses. In my case, since I teach the preclinical fixed prosthodontics, I'm gonna use that. So let's say you open that folder and now you have the list of all the students, which here at UFL, we assign a bench number to each of the students. We have 120 students, so 120 bench numbers. And this is, within all this system, the name of the student is never exposed, so that complies FERPA, and it also avoids bias grading while grading the projects, since the faculty can only see a number, the bench number. Okay. Important to point out, on these student folders, each particular student is invited to the folder, okay? And only the student will be invited. So at this point, only that student can see what's inside, which that solves the issue that I had with the server previously. So we go inside the student folder and we have all the assignments that the student has turned in. And in this case, I ask the students to upload 3 files or folders for each tooth that they are preparing or practicing. Okay, which will be the STL file, PDF report file that we export from the compare software. And then we have the compare data folder, which carries all the information on how they trace the lines on the prep. This way, with this information, I can open the case and verify everything that the student posted. In terms of HIPAA conflicts, OneDrive is HIPAA compliant, so we are not gonna have issues if we are handling patient information. We are only using it for preclinical courses right now, but if you want to use it in the clinic, it's an option. Stored data limitations. We need to make sure that whatever storage provider we're using, they offer a high amounts of storage capacity. We know that scan files, STL files, and all the files related to these kind of procedures are very heavy, and you multiply that for all the students, all the assignments, and all the courses that are within this main folder. When and where can the students and faculty access the stored files? We already talked about this. With the OneDrive, we can access it wherever we have internet access, which that is an advantage. Is the storage area being shared with other department areas who has access to it? So if we are working on a server, most likely that server is shared with other parts of the university, and most likely the IT department will be in charge and will be handling those folders. So by adding another party to the equation, the IT department can get tricky sometimes. With the online OneDrive option, you don't really have that problem as much. Okay, we are gonna go now through compare online versus local file storage. We have already talked a little bit about these ones, but here we go. With the online provider, We can do the folder within folder structure, as I mentioned, and you can give each user specific permissions and access. Where when you're working with the server, you can still do the folder within folder system, although everyone will have access to all the folders inside. The online provider, since all the information is on a cloud and it's not on the server, you will only download or pull the information that you really need to check or to grade. So it doesn't really affect the performance of the computer, where in the server, since all information is there, it can slow the processing. And for some particular procedures, like on the scanning procedure, which it requires a lot of memory, it can make it impossible to, for the student to finish the procedure. With the online provider or OneDrive, each user gets a terabyte of storage, which you multiply by 120 students, we have 120 terabytes, which that's a lot. With the server, the university must buy and create more space and more space. It gets a little bit more tricky. Then the students and faculty can have access to the folders 24/7 with internet, where with the server, the students and the faculty will only have access when they are in the school. And last, the updates and upgrades. You need to keep up with all the updates on the software. For example, for us, we had to update everything to Windows 10, the different versions that come out from the Compare software. And it goes as well with the hardware. Since these are very heavy softwares, we need to make sure we have newer equipment with good RAM memory, and also the scanners, they wear down over time, so you have to keep up with that. And then also the IT department will be constantly doing some security measures, so we need to make sure that all the system will fit into that security measures that they're taking. All right, so this is it for me. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to help if any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Terry Britt, and I am the Special Markets Clinical Training Manager with Plan Mecca. Today, I'd like to discuss the challenges we faced with the pandemic. You're looking at a picture of our headquarters and beautiful training facility located in Chicago. We host open houses where we showcase all of our products, such as dental chairs, imaging, and CAD/CAM. We also offer a variety of training courses for our users here. I'd like to introduce you to Don Erickson, who is our sales manager with the universities and institutions. He will be on the meeting toward the end for question and answers. And this is his contact information as well as mine too. So in March, our world came to an end as we knew it. We were flying all over the US training on site. We immediately switched gears and put our efforts into virtual training, where we offered Zoom meetings for everyone, whether you were a Plan Mecca customer or not. We had record numbers attending our live and recorded videos where we offered CEs. We also put together virtual training curriculums with our Compare software, our imaging, and our scan and send system, along with design and mill. And how we did that is we used GoToAssist, where we could log in to each of the attendees' computers and visually see their screen to assist multiple users at the same time. We reached out to our university and customers to offer our assistance. Because of the lockdown, the students were quarantined at home, which was a challenge for them to complete their credits and finish the semester. Our team stepped in and loaded the CAD/CAM cases and videos within their server for the students to complete. This allowed the faculty to check the work and monitor the progress of the student. We also downloaded the Romex's all-in-one workflow software into their Citrix environment for the students to complete remotely as well. Here are a few pics of our training as of today. We have opened back up in Chicago with limited class attendance and following all CDC guidelines. The participants can access these courses and training through these sites. So you can see here where we have our training rooms where we're actually doing our training, and then some of our sites that we still do, of course, our remote training as well. So we have our planmecca.com website. We have support on site where you can call in and they can use GoToAssist to log in as well. We have a Plan Mecca wiki site that houses all of our documentation and helps out our techs as well as the end user. We have several tutorial sites for our Romex's software, our CAD/CAM, our imaging. We offer digital mastery series, which is kind of webinars that we host to earn your CEs that way. And then you can do on-demand CEs. So you can log in and watch one and still receive your CEs from a recorded one. We also offer a Plan Mecca coaching program. So every Wednesday at 10 o'clock and at 1 o'clock, users can log in and we have a different topic each week that we cover. Okay. Let's see here. So I'd like to just show you a short video of all the amazing products that Plan Mecca has to offer. Okay, so I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you. And I think, Terry, you guys have that video on your site in the exhibit halls as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we didn't get a lot of good sound. So I would invite everybody to kind of go there and look at that because the sound didn't really come through very well. So to see that video, I'd go ahead and go to their site and take a look at that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Grant.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Hiba Al-Kasabi. I am an assistant professor at Rutgers School of Dental Medicine and the director of digital dentistry. First, I would like to thank the ACP for inviting me to speak today. And I will be talking about the digital complete dentures in academia, the Rutgers experience. I have no conflict of interest in regarding to my presentation. First, let me start with a definition of a digital denture. It's a complete denture created by or through automation using CAD, CAM, and computer-aided engineering in lieu of traditional processes. We have multiple softwares available in the market for designing digital complete dentures, including Evident, 3Shape, Vita, PDC, and many others. In regard to manufacturing of digital complete dentures, the process is either by subtractive or additive manufacturing. The subtractive manufacturing is milling a denture base from a pre-polymerized acrylic resin puck. Denture teeth can be attached into the denture base, or you can also mill a monolithic complete denture. This is an example of the dry milling of the denture base. Additive manufacturing, on the other hand, is 3D printing. The denture base is printed from pink acrylic resin, while the denture teeth are printed from tooth-colored acrylic. A quick comparison between milling and 3D printing. Milling is stronger, more aesthetic. You can have predictable reline and repair, and you get better denture-based adaptation. On the other hand, 3D printing is faster, less expensive, less material waste, and easier to do in office. Now, due to the superior mechanical properties of milling, our dentures are being milled, while the 3D printing is only used for the try-ins. So why digital dentures? Let me first talk about the disadvantages of traditional complete dentures. You need at least 5 clinical visits. You will lack the intimate fit of the denture base due to polymerization shrinkage of the acrylic, and you are unable to fabricate a duplicate denture. On the other hand, the advantages of digital complete dentures: you are able to record all the clinical information in one appointment. The denture can be ready for the next appointment. Less clinical chair time means more cost effectiveness with less lab steps. You will also have a repository of digital data which allow for fabrication of a duplicate denture when needed. The denture base fit is superior, as I mentioned, due to lack of polymerization shrinkage, and you have less tooth movement. The research has shown favorable properties of the pre-polymerized resin, and that's due to the extreme pressure used to fabricate the pucks. They have increased density, almost no porosity, less residual monomer, and more importantly, less adherence to Candida albicans. As you can see from this study, patient satisfaction with digital complete dentures is evident in terms of aesthetics, speech, phonetics, as well as masticatory function. Let's keep in mind that accurate diagnosis and execution of the required technical procedure requires applied knowledge of anatomy, impression making, and acquisition of records. That being said, success with digital dentures uses the same principles as conventional dentures. Going back to the design softwares, one of the most popular is Evident, and it has a 2-appointment and a 3-appointment approach. With a 2-appointment workflow, the first appointment is for final impressions, inter-occlusal record, and selection of tooth mold, while the second appointment would be for denture insertion. With a 3-appointment protocol, in the first appointment, you achieve your final impressions, select your tooth mold. Second appointment would be for the try-in and inter-occlusal records, and the third appointment would be for denture insertion. With Evident approach, the dentists are not able to design the virtual teeth. The providers can preview the virtual tooth arrangement, and they can request changes if necessary. At Rutgers Dental School, we chose to use the stone glass technology for our digital complete dentures, and we are currently using the Prosthetic Design Center, PDC software. Our protocol involves 5 appointments. The software allows us to design our virtual teeth arrangement. We are able to achieve balanced occlusion, whether it's lingualized or bilateral, and we can print our trial dentures in-house. The definitive denture is milled at the Stone Glass facility, and the denture teeth are high-quality Coulter brand. Let me give you a brief idea about our preclinical curriculum of complete dentures. We have 2 major courses. We have Complete Dentures 1 and we have Complete Dentures 2. We have modified the second course and renamed that Digital Applications and Advanced Topics. So for the Complete Denture 1 course, it is taught to D1 students, focuses on the basic principles of complete denture fabrication and monoplane occlusion. While the Complete Denture 2 course is taught to the D2 students, focusing on lingualized as well as bilateral balanced occlusion and immediate single denture. So with the new modification of that course, we have replaced the bilateral balanced occlusion with digital complete dentures. We kept the conventional immediate denture and we added the digital immediate denture. At Rutgers, we have a special Microsoft Service devices that are Rutgers issued to all our students. And it was really great that we were able to deploy the PDC software to those microsurface devices. That allowed for remote lab instructions. So the students are able to complete some of the laboratory projects at home or at school or at our digital dentistry center. Should another pandemic lockdown happen, God forbid, we are able to push some cases to the students at home. They can complete those cases and they can send it back to the instructors for feedback and grading. This is one of our faculty, Dr. Yusuf, teaching how to use the software. And we were able to develop exercise sheets following these steps for this new digital workflow in preclinic. As you can appreciate here, students' enthusiasm was evident. The feedback from them was great. This is one example of an email I have received from one of our students. So the note is coming from student Dr. Rafi. What he said is, I loved how I could pick up my work on my Surface at home, in school, or in the digital dentistry lab. The instructional videos and demonstrations were very clear and made everything easy to use. Digital CD eliminates a lot of very minor human error and makes setting the teeth of the denture very systematic and uniform. It is much quicker than the conventional method once we learned how to use the system. The articulation function was incredible. Being able to see the order in which occlusal contacts occur during excursive movement was very helpful. What about our clinical protocol here at Rutgers? The first appointment is for preliminary impressions. The second appointment is for border molding and definitive impressions, both for the maxilla and the mandible. And the third appointment is for the jaw relation records. Next, we will enter the world of digital dentistry. So as you can see here, we have now Rutgers Digital Education Center that has been established with the support of Stone Glass. The students are able to scan the wax rims as well as the master cast. So we are using a desktop lab scanner for the data acquisition. We first have to scan the wax rim after applying the scanning spray. Then we scan the respective master cast. Following that, the students will design the virtual tooth arrangement, as you can see here, and complete the virtual waxing up. Followed by that, we will do the printing of the trial dentures. So that's an example of a try-in. Going to the fourth clinical appointment, we will have the try-in. If any modifications are necessary, they can be done by grinding or adding to the trial denture. When it seemed appropriate, then when we can go ahead and fabricate the milled denture. So the milling is done at the production facility of Stone Glass. As you can see here, this is a milled puck, and the Coulter denture teeth are attached to it. The ridge lap area is modified by a computer software to fit the denture base. And the last appointment would be for denture insertion. I would like to thank Dr. Candice Zimnick for her support to Rutgers by training us and sharing her educational videos. And I would like to give you a quick idea about how this workflow. So we start first by the virtual alignment and design. We first determine the maxillary occlusal plane on the wax rim. Then we designate the midline according to the wax rim. We also determine the facial extent of the wax rim. We can further verify the midline designation using anatomical landmarks such as the incisive papilla. Then we finalize the mandibular occlusal plane by using 1/2 to 2/3 the retromolar pad. After the determination of the occlusal plane, we can then adjust our articulator settings. We can have a protrusive record if needed, and we can control the vertical dimension of occlusion as well by increasing or decreasing through the software. For the virtual tooth arrangement, we start by the determining of the crest of the ridge of the mandible. I'm having some delay here, I apologize. Here we go. So we first designate the crest of the mandibular ridge. We can also use Pound's triangle if you'd wish. After accepting that, we can determine the arch form of the maxillary anterior teeth. The software will then give you suggestions for selection the anterior tooth mold. You can choose any of those selections or you can override them. You can then do modification and tooth adjustment. You can move the teeth as a group or individually or using the mirror image feature. You continue the adjustment until it's satisfactory. Then you can choose the posterior teeth. You can choose the number of the posterior teeth, 3 or 4. You will choose the appropriate tooth mold. And once again, you will perform the individual tooth adjustments or group adjustments or mirror image. After completing that, you would choose the mandibular anterior arch form. The software will give you suggested tooth mold for selection. You have to choose the appropriate size of the tooth mold and continue the adjustments. Later on, you can visualize the tooth contact using a contact map. You can also check the articulation and the tooth movement in excursive, lateral, and protrusive balance. You can go ahead then and finish your virtual denture waxing up. So you would start first by determining the path of insertion. Then you would demarcate the flange of the complete denture. You will then start the virtual waxing up using different feature and the mirror image feature as well. For the immediate complete denture exercise with digital extraction, you can start from the trial denture design. Then you would perform the virtual tooth extraction, followed by virtual alveoloplasty and trimming your alveolar ridge. Then you would go ahead and refine the anterior tooth arrangement using different tools, as you can see here. Then you would refine the posterior tooth arrangement, determine the path of insertion, designate the borders of the flanges, and finally completing the waxing up. One other feature that you can use here, aside from scanning the master cast and the wax trim, the software also allows you to import STL file from intraoral scans if you wish, and continue with the same design workflow. I would like to thank everyone for your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Tim Thompson. I'm from Evident. Jerry asked me to talk a little bit about digital dentistry and how it's been affected in the university's curriculum. And so I thought I would give a short presentation overview of some of the journey that we've been on. Dr. Charlie Goodacre and I formed a very close relationship about 10 years ago now at the ACP meeting in Scottsdale. And we kind of saw our paths had intersected, and we were really working on a similar problem. Well, long story short is Abbott has been doing this for about 10 years now. And so let me kind of walk you through this journey about what we're doing for the universities. I did have a speech or a talk earlier this week on evolution and revolution of digital denture fabrication. So look that up if you haven't had a chance to preview that. There's a little bit of a history of the background and where we started. And so really what we're focused on right now in terms of the education platform is making it easy and making it simple and getting the software out. Our philosophy at Avident is really quite simple. We try to do all the heavy lifting for the doctor, and then what we do is we give them all the same tools that we have, and they can work with the setup of the teeth in a very quick and efficient manner without having to do a lot of the more mundane work setting it up. So they can pretty quickly go from lingualized to anatomical to any kind of setup that they want to explore. And so that's really our goal, is to get the Avident software into U.S. universities. And so it's just really quite simple. We want to make it easy for the universities to get into this digital denture area. And we understand that it's difficult in a lot of ways, and we want to keep it simple for the universities. We've got a number of universities that work with us, that use our software, and really try to make it as minimum objections as possible to get them involved in the process of becoming a digital denture university. We have about 10 universities that we work with very closely. Really, the focus is not so much about the digital denture, but really improving the clinical workflow. And what's digital if it's not going to improve the outcome, make it a 3-appointment denture instead of a 5-appointment denture, a 2-appointment denture instead of a 5-appointment denture. Make sure that the fits are great, make sure that the post-treatment follow-ups are really minimal, if at all, existing. And so what we're really doing is focused on providing free software and training to the universities at this point. And I'll walk you through this and kind of give you an overview of where we're at. We're really trying to make it incredibly easy for universities to get started and provide guidance and help in getting through the administration headaches. As we all know, the universities have a lot of different hurdles and hoops that you have to get over and through. So we've been kind of going through that with a number of universities, and I think we can help in some of these areas. How has the perception changed now that we're going through COVID-19? In Evident's case, it's really not much different. Business is actually better. And that is because people are really picking up this baton of being focused on delivering digital products. And so over the last 10 years, we've really focused on providing extensive improvements to the overall design and setup standards that we use. Those are things that we share with the community and we share with the universities. We really focused recently with the universities on this remote training and teaching practice, not just selling a product, but delivering a solution to the universities. We work with Amazon's web-based services, the AWS service. Amazon provides a complete solution that Evidence platform sits on, so you can work on your Mac or your PC or your iPad, whatever you want to do, and you can be interacting with the Evidence solution at any time. So we're trying to make it quite easy. And to further advance kind of what the university is looking for, we have implemented printing so that you can have a printing solution that Evident creates and that you can actually print at the university. A little bit about the education offering that we have been going through. This has been primarily driven by Loma Linda University, but we have a number of universities that are involved. Jerry Grant's University has just signed on, University of Minnesota, University of Texas, BU, a number of universities are actually involved in creating this offering. It's evolutionary in terms of we're really trying to meld it so it fits into the education setting that you may be encumbered by. And so let me kind of walk you through what we have and also mention that Dr. Brian Goodacre at Loma Linda and Dr. Charlie Goodacre have really been instrumental in trying to tell us what the universities need and what we can do to really get our software out and as a training and teaching tool into the universities. First of all, the Amazon Cloud design software is free to the universities. So we're just offering that up. That's delivered via Amazon Web Services, as I mentioned. So there's no cost associated with that. I'll go through a second module and I'll talk a little bit more about it. But this is the teaching module, and it's the Cloud EDU teaching module. And basically, we call it a sandbox. And we call it a sandbox because the students can practice on the case. They can make any kind of mistake. They can do whatever they want. We've set up a number of different cases. There's 14 trial cases in the sandbox. And so Dr. Brian Goodacre has done a couple of really clever setups, I think, and where you show on one side the correct setup, on the other side the now setup, and the students can practice on getting it right. And all the time you've got this occlusion, this dynamic occlusion that's showing you how your contacts are. So we've got 14 different cases that we set up in there, and they are free, and the training module to use those are absolutely free. There's a learning module that goes with that, right? So it's difficult sometimes when you pick up these complicated pieces of software. Where do you start? How do you do it? What's the process of kind of getting going? So we've really put together a very comprehensive digital learning module. And this really teaches you step by step how you start and how do you do the digital design of the setup. And so we walk you through this. This is 11 modules. They're self-paced. You can view them at any time. You can watch how to do things. Again, these are given to the universities for free. There's a piece that Dr. Goodacre came up with, which I really like, and that is they're really focused on making sure that the students at Loma Linda also have this hands-on training. It's not just digital, right? The digital's cool and it's really sexy, but how do you really get in there and do the biofunctional, the Loma Triad, or the Wagner Triad, which is 2 or 3 appointment type of practices. And so what we're doing on those is we're offering to the universities half price on all those pieces that are going to go on your typodonts. So the course and the course material is kind of geared for a D2 type student. And thank you, Dr. Brian Goodacre, again for sharing or offering to share that course material as taught at Loma Linda in either PowerPoint format or Keynote format for free. Again, a very generous offer, and puts it out there and makes it easy for the professors to get started, which is often the hardest part. Another thing that we're offering for free is a eHuman complete denture program. This is something, again, that Dr. Charlie Goodacre kind of helped us with. This is a copy, but it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of software, which really can be used as your textbook. And at Loma Linda, I believe they suggest that all the students buy that program just as a textbook, if you will. And of course, we also have an evident jaw motion simulator. I never call these articulators because they're really true anatomy. So it's a jaw motion simulator, and that's inside the software. And when you set up the teeth and you move them and you want to see what curve of speed does, or curve of Wilson, or you're doing flat plane, or you're doing lingual, you're doing anatomical, this allows the student to very quickly and very easily see what all those changes are doing in terms of the occlusion. Evident doesn't let the teeth interpenetrate. You know, we have what we call dynamic occlusion, and that dynamic occlusion basically says the teeth can touch, but they can't interpenetrate. So it's a very great tool to kind of get you back to like a physical reality. Finally, we've put the faculty practices on and under this offer. So if you have a university faculty practice, we offer that, and we very much enjoyed having you on the Avenant program there. We do have a letter of intent. It's a very friendly LOI that basically Avenant signs with the university to give access to these pieces above. And basically, if you get a commitment from the university that they're going to follow through and really work with these tools to help the students. We always get asked about private practice ACP members, and we offer all ACP members and still receive all the training modules and learning modules at no cost. That's a benefit that we offer to the ACP. Monthly subscription cost for the Avenant client software, that's the cloud-based solution. We submit cases, and that's really the design software. And again, so we would do the pre-setup, we do the setup, and we send it to you, you'd approve it, and then it would either be printed or mailed, depending on what you want. That access to that client-based solution is $99. So these are kind of the 4 pieces of software that we've developed over the last 10 years. So we have this digital denture learning module that you see on the left. We have Connect EDU. That's the university module. That's for teaching and practice inside the university. Those are the 14 cases that we pre-set up with all kinds of mal setups, and you can really show your students what, you know, every different abnormality that you want to show. Dashboard, that's the order entry system. It gives you the preview capability. You connect the final ones, the powerful design software that gives you all of the features that Avenant has as part of the Avenant suite of software that's being offered. These show some costs to them. There are no costs for the university. Those are free. We support that cost through the Amazon web services, so they are free to use for the university. The kit that we offer to the university, this really helps you kind of understand what's the students, and it has the typodont that's used in your university. We will make the bifunctional trions and Wagner trions to whatever type of dent that you choose to use. And so, for instance, at Loma Linda, what they've done is they provide each student in their D2 course a bifunctional trion set, an upper and lower, and a Wagner trion set, and some final dentures, which we call XEL2s. So that's kind of what the student buys with their lab fee. And we'll talk a little bit more about what Dr. Goodacre has done to kind of reduce those lab fees at Loma Linda. So how do you get this going? Dr. Brian Goodacre has written a short 3-page paper. I'm going to kind of preview it here just real quickly, but we're happy to share that with any program directors or anybody who wants to get these digital denture programs started at the university. We know that it's a can of worms sometimes getting through the admin, but we bit on that as we've been through that quite a bit. He's also graciously volunteered to take any calls from any of the faculty with questions and talk a little bit about how they teach these courses at Loma Linda, what's their process. So at Loma Linda, they basically have the EDU modules live. The students are all logged in. They all have access to the same database. And again, they can use this software and not worry about making a mistake because this is all in the EDU environment, which is a sandbox type of environment. Just real quickly, I don't expect you to be able to read this, but this is the letter from Dr. Brian Goodacre to faculty at different universities, just kind of walking them through what you have to know in order to get the digital denture program started at your university. And so he goes through all of the different things that they've done. And most importantly is he creates a cost schedule for year 1, year 2, and subsequent years. And what they do at Loma Linda is they reuse a lot of the material that they buy for the students, the BTIs and WTIs. Some of them have to be remade, of course, because if you're using them to check occlusion and you're grinding it in, that sort of thing. Of course, those are ruined and you have to replace those. The WTIs are set in wax. Universities can reset them if they want. We'll give you the keys, or you can let us reset them if you want. Both very affordable options. So these are kind of, so I'll throw this all up there, what we're doing for the university. So denture pricing is 20% off the lowest pricing available. That's the laboratory pricing. The biofunctional trions and Wagner trion type of dent pricing. Again, these are the tools these are the denture tools that you want to put in your students' hands. We discount those 50% off the normal lab pricing so that you can really have cost not be an objection for your lab on those. So that would be providing the student an upper and lower maxilla and mandible BTI and a maxilla and mandible WTI. And so at Loma Linda, they do different types of things with the BTI, practice grinding in the occlusion, whereas the WTI is used more for learning how to move teeth and the traditional wax setup. So it provides a lot of traditional training. STL files are now available for the universities if they want to print them themselves. We have a unique thing that we call no punch through, so that there's no bonded tooth exposed. So these are all going to be printed teeth that are bonded in, and we make sure that those are all fit perfectly and that the occlusion is easy to set up on them. Real quickly, this is the university program offering, just showing the different dentures that are offered, the Wagner trions, the biofunctional trions, and then we have some packages that are again steeply reduced in cost just to make sure that they fit within the Medicare or Medicaid pricing schema. So in summary, obviously digital dentures are here to stay. We've been doing that for 10 years now. I think COVID-19 has actually sped up the process of adoption. We're seeing a lot more people taking it up. The tools that are out there are very straightforward nowadays. The scanning is quite simple, and getting the records is quite simple. So we've really seen a big uptick in what's going on in terms of getting the digital dentures as replacing the traditional fabricated dentures. It's easier and quicker to show students all the clinical intricacies. As I mentioned, you can still lingualize, monoplane, anatomical setups very quickly. And again, what our idea at Avident is hey, doctors aren't learning to become experts at all the intricacies of the setup. Let's provide the setup, and we can provide that and then give them the same tools so they can adjust anything they want to adjust, move a single tooth, adjust a single tooth, move them in groups, move them in blocks, move them as a sets of 14. We really give a very sophisticated set of tools to the doctor to use. Education is absolutely the key, and thank you, Jerry, for inviting us to speak today about some of the pieces that we've really been focused on, both at the university and in private practice. Again, Avident has waived all the costs for the software and will help guide you through the process of adoption at your university. I think we have some pretty good ideas of what to do and what not to do. And we have some very nice doctors who have been through the process and can help you at your university become a digital venture university. I want to thank you all. Jerry, special thanks for inviting Avident to speak to the group today. Contact us at info@avident.com for customer service. If you want some personal service immediately on the education front, talk to Joy at joyshao@avident.com, and there's her phone number, 214-422-0461. Again, thank you all very much.
Good morning. Before I begin, I'd like to just thank Dr. Grant and the ACP for the invitation to participate today. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here. My name is Thomas Giuliano, and I am the Assistant Director of PG Pros at New York University College of Dentistry. And today I'm going to talk about a digital method of teaching teeth arrangement. And I thought about the best way to make this presentation to kind of describe the problem that we were faced with, where we started, what we did, and the results we obtained. The best way I thought would be to put this in kind of a timeline. So that's how I began. I'll bring you back to March 13th of 2020. New York University College of Dentistry suspended all clinical and preclinical activity. The problem we had was there was a course for the second-year dental students called Removable and Implant Simulation course that was midstream, that was ongoing. So the challenge we were faced with was how do we continue to teach these students when they were in shelter in place? How can we continue to do the teaching remotely? Now, I know you're all familiar with the way we were all taught, with a flame, pink wax, and a wax spatula. But the problem was with the school closed, the students had no access to their labs. So we had to come up with an alternative. So very shortly after the school suspended activity, the chair of our department, Dr. Jahangiri, put together this digital denture teeth setup team and provided me as project leader with just a wonderful, talented, knowledgeable group of individuals to work with. It really kind of would make it very, very difficult to explain if I failed. So it was just a great group of people to work with. And within the coming weeks, from the end of March to the end of May, we had weekly meetings. And during these weekly meetings, what we basically did was we reviewed our goals, what we were trying to achieve, and we reviewed the various systems that are out there available for educational purposes, and you've already seen several of them this morning. And then we finalized our choice. Our choice was to go with a company called Denka. They're in a little town outside of Los Angeles, California, called Torrance. And the software they provide is something called Denka Academy. Now, back in March and April, when we started this team, if you went to Denka Academy, you saw this, which were 6 exercises, 2 of which were developed by USC. And this was good, this was fine, but we wanted a little bit more. We wanted some additional custom-made exercises that would suit our purposes for our D2 course. So we approached the company, and they were very, very helpful in helping us develop some additional exercises in addition to the ones that were already available. And they said to us, we can pretty much design almost any exercise you want, but you've got to provide us with a digitized version of edentulous casts. So that's what we did. If you see here on the bottom, Dr. Zhivago is actually holding up the actual articulator that he scanned to produce the STL file you see in the middle there, which is the digital version of the edentulous casts. And the little red squares are nothing more than markers that make it the computer easier to read. And then we went ahead at subsequent meetings and decided what setups we wanted and where we wanted the position of the teeth to be. And now if you go to Dentka Academy, you'll see there are 5 additional exercises added. We call them NYU exercise 1 through 5. And the reason we wanted to do this was because we wanted progressive learning. We didn't want to start with something terribly complex that the students would not be interested in finishing. So we started with something very easy, and progressively each exercise got a little bit more complicated. And you'll see that in a minute. I'm going to go through briefly all 5 exercises. Exercise 1 was the simplest exercise, where you will notice the left side of the maxillary arch, the denture teeth are already in place. So all the student has to do is place the right side mirroring the left side. Exercise 2 was just the placement of the maxillary 6 anterior teeth. Exercise 3, maxillary 6 and mandibular 6 anterior teeth. And exercise 4 was a full maxillary arch. And exercise 5, the most complicated one of the exercises, was the full mouth. The full maxillary mandibular arches needed to be put in place. So I'm going to start a quick video here. It's only about 1.5 minutes, and I'll narrate. There is no sound. I'll narrate as the video goes. I want you to notice the first few seconds of the video will actually show that you can move the teeth as a group also. So keep that in mind. You'll see here, you can click on a group of teeth or you can click on an individual tooth. You can move them as a group. Now, you double click on a tooth and it turns gold. And then you have basically 2 options. You can either rotate the tooth or you can bodily move the tooth into whatever position you want. And you can see on the left-hand side, there's actually 3 views. There's an occlusal view, there's a frontal view, and there's kind of a side view. So you can manipulate the teeth that way also. And you can make things disappear. Here you can see the maxilla is gone, and he was just doing the mandibular arch, tweaking it a little bit. By the way, this video is a collaboration between myself and Dr. Zhivago. And you see it's not real time. It's sped up a little bit in the interests of the 15 minutes that I was allocated. But I think you can get the idea from this. You can view the screen in any way you want. Another interesting thing here is you see the tooth turns red. It gives the student a hint if they want to increase their score. Like I said, this video is going a little fast, but if you see on the right-hand side here, it says check score. You can actually check the score. And it'll give you here, you see it says 90%. So we want to go back and manipulate the teeth again, check the score again. You can increase your score to 92. We were told very, very difficult to get 100% here because every single pixel would need to be matched. And that's very, very difficult to do. The other thing is the students do not have to complete the exercise in one sitting. They could store it and come back to it. And they can even share their setup with a faculty or a fellow student to get differing opinions. So let's get back to my timeline. We decided to roll this out before we sent it to the entire class, just to a small group of third-year dental students. These would be students that have already finished the course. So they had a little bit of experience with denture setups. But we wanted any changes in our curriculum to be outcome-driven. And because of that, we came up with a Qualtrics survey that I'll show you in a moment. We sent the survey out to the 10 students. We got 9 responses back. And then we set out to train our faculty. There were 14 faculty that were trained with Dentka Academy between the prosto faculty and karyology faculty. And here's the picture on the upper left. I call these my pilot students. This is the group of students that helped us out in the first go around. And here's the first thing they had to do in the survey was basically identify what year of school they were in or whether they were faculty or not. And here are the 6 questions that they had to rank in a scale of 1 to 5. We showed them a video. We let them look through the user guide. We wanted to know how easy this was to register and navigate. And you'll see the other questions in a moment. But they had to rank these 1 to 5. And then in early July, we rolled it out to the entire second-year class, which at New York University is a lot of students. It's 394 students in our second year alone. And by the middle of October, all 394 responded, which was really good. We got 100% response rate. And this just shows a visualization of the scores, 1 on top, 5 on the bottom. And you see most of the scores were in the 4 to 5 region, but I broke this down into the raw numbers. So if you look at the mean score, the first 4 questions that we asked them to rank, the video, the user guide, ease of registration, were in the high 80s, which I thought was really good. Question 5, value of the exercises compared to actual waxing of denture teeth was a little bit lower because remember, these are second-year dental students and not all of them had experience with actual waxing of denture teeth. So we think that skewed this number downward a little bit. But the number that interested me the most is the overall level of satisfaction. Remember, these are students. So we almost got a 73% favorable rating on the overall level of satisfaction, which I thought was quite good. Now, of course, there are limitations to this software, but there are a lot of benefits also. The main benefits are, the first is that it teaches the basic skills of digital manipulation. Now, I could tell you firsthand that the manipulating digital images on a computer screen comes with a bit of a learning curve. Although these students usually are a little bit more computer savvy than us old timers, it does teach them the basic skills of moving things around and rotating things on a computer screen. Very important skill, because after all, the future of dentistry, I believe, is going to be become more and more digital as time goes on with exocad and 3Shape and all the other software companies out there. Dental Academy also allows for asynchronous learning. This was really important after we were all sheltered in place, because when the school shut down, a lot of our students went home. And home, it was all over the country and all over the world. One of my students went home to Dubai. And this asynchronous learning was great for us because it eliminated the problem of having to have everybody in the same place at the same time. It eliminated that, okay, everybody's got to be at a Zoom meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning when it might be 4 o'clock in the morning on the other side of the world. So it allowed the students to do it at their leisure. An objective grade was one of the most important things we looked at when choosing this particular software, because it really removes the subjective opinion and the human element from grading. So gone are the days where a student will show one faculty a setup, and that first faculty will say, that great job, go on to the next exercise, but they'll show the same wax up to another faculty and they'll get a different opinion. So we thought that was really important, that it removed the subjective opinion out of grading. And Dental Academy truly allows a hybrid curriculum. And what I mean by that is you really get the best of both worlds. At our very first meeting, we all agreed that any digital realm we were going to enter was going to be an adjunct and not a replacement for the traditional method of setting teeth. So if you take this approach, you can truly have the best of both worlds and enhance your school's curriculum. The other real big benefit was it's a web-based software program. There's no software to download on a computer. All you need is internet access. So this is really significant because there are other software programs the university used where we ran into problems where some students were using an iPad, some were using a Mac, some were using a Dell PC, and sometimes software doesn't run as well on an iPad as it does on a PC. So the fact that it was web-based helped us out a great deal. We really had almost no computer issues at all. And one of the biggest items was that it was free and continues to be free. Any one of you, any individual, any institution can go to this website on the bottom of the screen here. And all you need to do is open an account, sign on, and you're free to use any of our exercises and of the New York University designed exercises free of charge. There'll be we're not going to charge any license fees. We want to put this out there for the world to use. So also finishing my timeline, we submitted this brief article for publication in mid-June, and it was accepted and published by the end of July. And just one more time, I want to point out that this was not a one-person show. This was not a one-person effort. It really took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of individuals putting our heads together to come up with this. So here's my email. Thank you for your attention. Hope I didn't go over time. But if anybody wants to email me, reach out. I could send you the article. I could send you that website. And I also will be available afterwards for any questions. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Doctor. And good morning, everyone. And I too, much like everyone else, want to thank the ACP for putting this on. I think, right, this is, I think it's absolutely great that we're doing this. It's where we are, right? We're all talking about change this morning. And that's kind of where we are. And this is adapting with change. And I think it's absolutely great that we're doing this. So I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Chris Fry. I am the DTS Whitmix Digital Sales Manager. If there is anyone on the line that isn't familiar with Whitmix, after 101 years, I'm guessing there isn't. But as most of you know, Whitmix has been manufacturing and also reselling products for the dental industry, for the lab, the clinic, and of course the universities for, as I said, 101 years now. So I'm looking forward to continuing to adapt, as all of us are here this morning, as we start to move forward through this virtual show and what could possibly be many more going into 2021. So I know we're somewhat short on time and trying to move forward, so I will go ahead and start moving forward myself this morning. I want to take a look at the three questions that kind of we've been looking at as corporate presentations and how Whitmix has changed and are continuing to change as we're moving forward here. So if we look at the perception of the use of digital technologies and how we've changed and to address dental schools, continuing education, and the private practice within the current pandemic, I don't think our perception has changed in regards to the use of digital technologies due to the pandemic. The evolution of the use of digital technologies was happening well before the pandemic. I can tell you, based on what we're seeing, the current situation has expedited the use of digital technologies. Where we have had to make significant changes really has been the way we train the private practices and the dental schools that are buying equipment from us. Prior to COVID-19, we provided and preferred in-person training, either at our corporate facility or in our practical lab or on site at the clinic or university. And so as we've talked about this morning, things kind of got shut down pretty fast there in March and into April. And so of course we had to go to remote only training. And as I said before, we offered it, but it wasn't our preference because you get so many interruptions. And what we have found, even with your undivided attention, 2 straight days of training online, it was difficult for people to retain the information. So what we did is we broke it down into 2-hour morning and afternoon sessions over a 3-day period. So you got the same amount of training that you would normally get with, say, something like 3Shape CAD software, right? That's 2 full days of training. So it was the same amount of training broken down over 3 days and into smaller time frame. And what we found is that it was successful. We can tell when a training isn't successful due to the high volume of technical support calls that we get after the training. And so far, since we've broken down the training into the smaller chunks, our technical support calls have returned to the normal levels when compared to doing the way we used to do it, which was person to person, 2 days of on-site training. And as well, our university reps are still working with their schools to provide training, kit introductions, and presentations to faculty upon request. They're doing it via Zoom or GoToMeeting. They really haven't missed a beat. So much like we are all adapting this morning, or with this conference going virtual, our university reps have really done the same thing, and they're adapting, and they're using the tools that are out there to make sure that the universities and the faculty are still getting the information that they're looking for. And as well as that, we've relied on our key opinion leaders, much like Dr. Grant or Dr. Michael Shear, that do have a lot of these products from us. And we use them to, to broaden our education and influence during COVID. So most certainly have leaned on people within the university or in the private practice to assist us as well. And then, I understand that dental schools currently have, they've got reduced access to laboratory training for the students. And really that's, private practice as well. So we have made the technology available. We've made it accessible for a working laboratory or a clinician with an in-house lab or students looking for laboratory training. We produced a lot of content for everyone. For those of you that don't know, Whitmix is from a digital standpoint, we are a reseller of 3Shape CAD software, Roland milling machines, Sim Systems CAM software, and Asiga 3D printers, as well as Whitmix 3D printer. And we aren't allowing anyone into our facility right now to get any hands-on experience with our hardware or software. And so what we did, and this was in April, May, and June, really, when everything was shut down, we started focusing on videos, a whole digital dentistry training series. We covered multiple topics: splints, digital dentures, partial framework, surgical guides, computer maintenance, temporaries, and really, what we did is it's kind of really, it was all soup to nuts. If you look at it, a lot of these, if you look at digital dentures or temporaries or the splints, it's 3 1-hour videos, and it's designing, right? Scanning and designing. And then it's printing and post-processing. But then even beyond that, the last presentation we heard about Dentka. Whitmix is a partner of Dentka as far as their 3D printable material. And so it's characterizing of the digital denture once you've printed it and going through and characterizing it. And so all of that is a part of what those videos were that we created. And then from an accessibility standpoint, those videos, the trainings, all that I've mentioned, they're all available for everyone. They're on our website at www.whitmix.com. There's a training tab across the top, which has all the videos. We do have them, we have them, the NBC, they're certified with the NBC and the Canadian College Certificate for anybody in the private practice that is looking for scientific credits. And we've produced, all of those are available at no charge for educators and clinicians to give you the ability to view several different types of dental dentistry. And then really we create content on a regular basis. We're continually creating content. On the resources page of our website, there's multiple training videos where you can find really from all topics, not just digital, but everything that Whitmix offers to labs, to clinicians, and of course to the universities. And then, of course, we will work with any university to create any type of training video that meets your needs. So as I said when I started, right, everything is evolving, everything's changing, and I love, like I said, that we're having this virtual meeting today because it shows that regardless of what's happening, the industry, the universities, the vendors that are out there are making the necessary changes to continue to grow as we move forward. So again, a thank you to the ACP for allowing Whitmix to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so in my presentation, I want to kind of discuss the digital solutions to COVID-19 challenges. As we've all seen, this meeting changed a little bit and how digital has been run, and I'm going to kind of go through our evolution through this entire digital structure and how the ACP has kind of addressed it and how people have actually kind of used this digital technique for educational purposes in dentistry. So we recognize there's challenges in the use of digital technology in education. There is expensive hardware and software, dental educators that are not familiar with the technology, and then there's a lack of standard curriculum and resistance to change. So that's kind of what we ran into and what we were addressing with the ACP and how we would address it and what everybody else was running into. And this is all prior to COVID. So the ACP responded to support the use of digital technologies in dental education by developing a digital curriculum through the foundation. We then made templates that allow for templates and algorithms and support things for all the northern dental schools through a grant from Henry Schein, which we were very appreciative of. We also extended that curriculum once it was developed in the PDF form, the curriculum only, to European and other schools outside of North America. The support, though, is only available to those schools in North America. And we encourage a lot of industrial partnerships with a lot of the schools and our discussions with them as well. So the results were, they were requested by all the North American dental schools. Almost every school in North America has requested access to the curriculum and to the support. It facilitated the addition of digital technologies and conventional curriculum. So this kind of helped a lot of schools to kind of jumpstart. And certainly some of the schools you saw today, they were on the groundbreaking portions of this and contributed greatly to the curriculum. It also caused an increased awareness of the industry partnerships with dental institutions and a need to maybe to reach that. But the problem is we have a lot of faculty that we had to push into the digital, and this became probably our biggest issue on how we could actually get these things to work. So enters COVID-19. So now how does this happen? So COVID-19 comes, and now we're all stuck with shelter in place for most states. We have to deal with social distancing, which means a lot of different things in a lot of different states. We still need to meet our educational goals, and the students still need to graduate, and the nature of classic dental education requires access to laboratory facilities. At least that's what we think. Not to mention the issue of PPE, testing, and just the facilities and actually whether they're safe or not for students and for patients as well. So remember these guys, these are the faculty that kind of are pushing us. So before they're pushing back and they don't want to see how things are going. But now this COVID's coming, all of a sudden now we're limited on how they can teach. They can no longer teach the conventional way. We can't put people in lecture halls. We can't put people in laboratories. If we can only limit the numbers of these people that can do this. So now we have an issue of how are we going to present something that we have conventionally taught at conventional forms, and we haven't moved to any type of advanced digital platforms or embraced a lot of the digital activities that can be done with some of the digital dental products. So this is their reaction. What are we going to do? So now they're here. What are we going to do? So how do you provide education remotely? This is a big question. So the new concepts of teaching, this is a new concept of teaching for most dental faculty. We're all used to a mentorship type of programming where we have a student, we are one-on-one or in a large group, and we kind of portray pass on our knowledge and our opinions and how we kind of move along that training. Our current conferencing programs are limited. If you guys remember at the beginning of this, there was Zoom, there's Teams, there's Blue Jeans, there's a lot of other programs, but a lot of those, we're either A, unfamiliar how to use them, B, so are the IT problems. So if you're an institution or a school such as ours, IT will say you can't use that platform. So now we have to find platforms that we can use, that we can reach out to students that aren't in the building. And remote instruction for dental faculty is nearly non-existent. So none of us, and not many of us, have been trained in how to use remote instruction. So there are lots of different concepts and different training facilities that are being used in undergraduate colleges to use remote and use online type of training where it becomes kind of interactive as opposed to just a Zoom PowerPoint. And how are we going to get students to experience some of the principles and hand skills offered in laboratory instruction with minimal laboratory access? So now we may not have any access at all, or we may have to limit it. So at my university, we have to limit the number of people that can come in. So they're rotating in at smaller amounts to get access to the laboratory. That, of course, means that you only have so many people that have access at a certain amount of time to the facilities to do these types of exercises. Oh, and by the way, you only have 2 weeks to figure it out. So that was a big issue. So all this came up, and then you get the school come back and says, oh, by the way, we have to have a plan within 2 weeks. So naturally, this is everybody's reaction. Oh my God, what are we going to do? So there's nothing like a little stress to stimulate innovation. So again, we start looking around. Computer-aided design looks a lot more appealing now than it did before. Digital curriculums provide a template for some of the training opportunities. So we've had access to these templates that most schools have access to through the ACP. So now we have these templates, and we have people that are actually using them, so that communication can be brought up. People can talk to each other. Sharing between schools becomes a more necessity than a problem. So in some issues, a lot of schools don't want to reach out to other schools to get things, but now it's almost something we have to do. So we have to share resources. We have to be innovative with each other. A lot of faculty are calling each other and saying, how did you do this? How did you do that? We're all setting up common things. We're all sharing different types of softwares. We're sharing different types of meeting abilities, and we're sharing lecturers. And then industry digital systems begin to offer more access to software and hardware to dental institutions. And I hope that's what you saw from the questions I asked our industrial representatives to kind of go over. What did they do? And you can see they've been very, very interactive. A lot of the schools offering a lot of things that we probably have not tried to access in the past or found it difficult to access in the past. So how did COVID actually affect our industrial partners? Well, they went through a shelter in place as well, and resulted in demanding results. Loss of demand resulting in furloughs, activity reps, interrupt supplies, and delivery. A lot of them had the big ones, the bigger groups had to do that, and we've all had to deal with that. However, they offered opportunity to work with dental schools to develop innovative initiatives to support remote CAD. So you saw, how Avident reached out, and how Plan Mechanism reached out, and everybody else has kind of reached out to provide that support directly to the schools to kind of get them up and running and get them so they have some content that they can use remotely, and to give students access to things that they normally wouldn't have access to. It increased the frequency and topics of CE, both institutions and private practitioners. So now it's very, there's a lot of online CE, both for students and for private practice on digital technology and on different types of other aspects of dentistry. And it developed a new offerings made by dental hardware and software to make accessible to dental schools. So you see they kind of restructured how things are doing it. The cost of some of these equipment have come down for dental schools. Again, you saw Avident kind of brought prices down to make it accessible to the schools, and so did other groups as well. Whitmix is involved in a lot of the schools and how they do it. Armin Garbach is interested in schools and how they work out. Most of the major industrial partners that we have all been in BioHorizons. They've all been into the schools and been helping them to kind of work through these things. So what do we do with the digital technologies? So CAD's the key. Because in CAD, we can do crown fabrication design. We can evaluate preparations. We can evaluate pathology. There's RPD design. There's denture tooth setup and occlusion. There's anatomy. There's all kinds of things that we can do with CAD types of softwares that allow us to at least introduce those students to the principles and the guiding principles we use in fabrication or in theory of occlusion and of different aspects of dentistry. But what about some of the other lab works you have to do? So we have to use lab time to scan example casts and practice tooth preparations. You saw from Dr. Montero's lecture, the students come in and they do their preparations and they scan them all, and then they move all their scans to a cloud source. And then they can go back later where they have the software on their computers and they can actually go back and do the compares. They can see where they need to make modifications. They can put their projects together and they can send it back in for grading, or they can send it back in for project completion and mentoring. Some lab can be done at home, so with minimal hardware setups. So, do you really need a big, huge thing to do custom trays, articulations? Some of the stuff can be done with a modest purchase of hand pieces and things that students can have at their home to do this. And we can use online teaching platforms for lab instruction. So even though they may be at home making a custom trade, they can somehow or another, they can get access to lab instruction on how to do that step by step. And we can develop interactive online platforms and put small groups together, online mentoring. There's actually a lot of examples. If you go to Google it on interactive remote teaching, and a lot of this is already done on the undergraduate university level, as a lot of the universities have gone to online platforms. And again, and their experience has been that, you know, PowerPoint, Zoom, death by these are kind of not interesting to students. So they found ways to make Teams and other types of platforms interactive, put them in small groups, have discussion groups, and be able to have mentoring in these smaller groups. So you can develop projects with 3D products. You can use comparative software. So you can have them scan everything and go back and do it. You can use compare, you can use Geomagics, Inspect. There's several different softwares that allow you to compare what your expectations are to what the students actually produce. You can leverage inexpensive printing technologies for home fabrication. I bought a $200 printer, FDM printer that I have at home that I play around with to see, can I print stuff that I'm giving the students to do? And there's really hardly anything I can't print on my $200 printer. So, you know, if they have it at home, they may be able to print it themselves. There are also ways that maybe we can leverage to get them access to printers and types of things directly at the school where we can line them up, we can actually print them. Use cloud protected base storage for exchange of information. This allows the flexibility for students to be able to input stuff here at the school and then have access to it when they're not here. And take those files and move them around through software to evaluate what they're doing and to work with some of the offerings that we have in software and in CAD design. So we want to take this faculty that goes here, who went through this cycle, and turn them into this cycle. So the key to all of this is your faculty development. I think most of the presenters we had today that had processes, and they went over and over again that they had to train the faculty. So you want to convert all those naysayers that we had, or the resistant individuals, and you want to get them as part of that team. This requires a lot of training. And so that's one of the things you need to focus on if you're going to go to any of these types of platforms. So in conclusion, you know, the social distancing pushed the use of digital and dental technology to become more remote. And I think that's one of the things that really has done. If you've noticed, there's been a big push and a lot of people are getting more and more involved with the digital. And this probably has to do with the fact that we really don't have a lot of choices. And so social distancing has really pushed digital dentistry and how we're going to address some of the issues we have with education. The increase in partnership of institutions and industry has stimulated innovative approaches. So they brought in all kinds of innovative ways of looking at how you do hands-on time, what that actually means. The informatic tech departments have had to find ways to allow us to have platforms to move large data files, to get online, to be able to talk. So if your experience has been like mine in the military and in the institutions, when I go down to ask the question, the first thing that comes out of tech's mouth is, no, you can't do that. And then you have to kind of work it out and get it. So now no doesn't necessarily become the first answer. The answer is more, how's the platform work and how does it work with our university? Industries had developed more online platforms and that provides cybersecurity for student and protection. And online training will not end after COVID-19 crisis. I don't see that happening. I think what you're going to see is we're going to pick and choose what makes sense and what can be the best way to leverage our education for these students. So thank you for your time, and we will move right along with our next vendor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Grant, thank you. And also thank you for the American College of Orthodontists for having us, for hosting us. And I'm just trying to find the video part so I can share my face with you, I guess. So I'm going to begin to do it by sharing a little bit of Among Gearbach, who we are. It'll be really quick and painless. We are a company that is focused on dental laboratories, and all of our products are directed towards the dental laboratories. But because of the need or the crossover that is happening in the field, we are offering little by little more and more products that are also available or needed by dentists or by the clinical side. So I'll talk a little bit about that later on. We do have an office here in the US. We're based out of Charlotte. We have what we call a sales office, a service department, and training center. We also have a help desk, and we cover several different languages out of our headquarters. This is just a little bit about our team. We are beginning to grow again, so we'll have new faces towards the new year, as we see that there is a positive movement for 2021 in regards to the needs for our products within the dental community. This is basically where we have our team located, mostly in the South. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what adjustments has Amann Girrbach done during the pandemic. Some of the even during the pandemic, the school still had some need after we all started sort of like coming out. So we continue to offer the training to the schools on a as needed basis. We however adjusted travel for the safety of our team, but we do work with the school, and we work with our team to be able to provide either online training or face-to-face training. Obviously, that is adjusted or that is reduced because of the pandemic, but we're still being able to offer that to the schools and also to the private market out there in the field. So we continue to be just as busy as before. And one of the reasons for that is that we we do provide a full system. We are a full system provider. We are fully in the digital process. We have versatile equipment in the market, and our team is technically proficient to be able to work with you or with any customer out there in the market. We, just like other providers such as Serona or Straumann or Novo Biocare, we provide a full solution to our customers. And that is our focus, is how do we bring that production into a local either laboratory or an in-house laboratory, or even a school, since we have a couple of schools that are using our products for their laboratories in-house. Some of the new items that are moving more towards the clinical side, but allow the laboratory to be able to have more information and produce a more precise restoration is a digital face bowl manufactured by Xeris, and we carry that face bowl. Basically, this is a wireless face bowl. It's integrated with Amann Girrbach. It is individually fitted to the patient. Like I said, it's wireless. It's integrated into our CAD/CAM system, but it's also usable with other CAD/CAM systems out in the market. So I'll talk about what the information that we provide with this face bowl is. And it is a very quick registration. It's done within 15 minutes from the time that the patient sits down. We provide, or it provides, the dynamic movements of the patient, the joint parameters, and also the face bowl registration to the patient. These are some of the information that we're providing through this process. The bended angle, front table inclination, so it makes the precision of an articulator or the Artix articulator a lot more precise than before, and a lot more precise than an analog face bowl. So just some of the views of the output from the Xeris face bowl, digital face bowl. And not only that, but we also provide an ability for the user to be able to precisely articulate the maxilla and then the lower, based on the output of the Xeris articulator. So you can use it digitally, but you can also use it analog and transfer all that information into the articulator. So basically what the company does is we integrate everything that we have, and we have additional products, just like milling machines, scanners, for the laboratories, full service units with blank changers. And we also provide an array of consumables to our users that can be used pretty much with our systems, not only for milling, but also for printing materials. Of course, we are a manufacturer of zirconia, so we focus on zirconia. And we have different types of zirconia for different types of restorations, whether it's a very aesthetic for the interior region, or a stronger zirconia, but still being multi-layer, such as the Genix, which is the newest material that we have in our family. And so what we do is we integrate everything that we provide to a user. Part of it is obviously the hardware, but then we're looking at the scanner, we're looking at the design software, and then what is the output, whether it's a mill or it's a printer. So we provide that we provide the ability for the user to be able to do a fixed restoration with our software, a removable, such as a denture, and we're moving more and more into hybrid. So the systems are able to be expanded as the years go by, and there is a good option for customers, because what we do is we have holders, they can be exchanged, they can be added to it. So there's future developments that can happen with some of our partners out there in the field. In this case, for example, Mertz Dental, they provide the teeth, or they're sold to the customer. We provide a capability for the customer or for the user to be able to mill to design and mill or print those dentures. And we give the user the ability to also either have custom-made teeth or stock teeth in the case of dentures. Like I said before, there's the ability to either print the dentures. We also work with Vita. They can provide you the teeth for that. So we give you different choices, different options as far as how you want to finish a specific case or a specific capability. So the access to our capabilities, the equipment is mainly for in-house use. We have customized the training based on our user needs, especially in this pandemic. And we want to continue, and our team wants to continue providing the training. And it may be that it has to be online, or it's going to be face-to-face. So we make adjustments for the different schools or for the different users out there in the market. So we also work together with our distributors, with our partners, to make sure that we basically have different options for you, the school, or for you, the private practice. So we can be able to support you between us, the manufacturer, or our partners, and also the distributor. And again, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
The BioHorizons Guided Surgery Kit offers the precision and predictability of guided implant placement with a streamlined single kit design. Surgical guides are available from Vulcan Custom Dental and many other guide partners. For a full list, visit the BioHorizons website. The guide manufacturer will provide the surgical guide along with the surgical protocol, detailing the instruments to be used for the case. Once the surgical guide is seated, begin the surgery using the instruments specified in the surgical protocol. Place the drill guide into the master cylinder and advance the pilot drill through the drill guide until it rests on the bony crest. Confirm passive seating of the drill by pumping the drill in and out. Once the drill is passive, rest it against the bony crest and begin drilling. Continue to pump the drill in and out of the drill guide to allow for irrigation. Continue to prepare the osteotomy according to the surgical protocol. Verify the driver and stop position recommended on the surgical protocol. Pick up the implant using the driver and place either a disposable depth stop or depth stop handle in the correct stop position. Place the implant through the guide until the depth stop rests on the top of the master cylinder. Remove the guide and place the temporary restoration, healing abutment, or cover cap. Learn more at biohorizons.com.
Thank you all for presenting, and I really appreciate the fact that everybody stayed on time. Everybody did a great job. As you also that are here, there's a lot of information that kind of got passed and had to be done very, very quickly. So we're kind of hoping that maybe you have a lot of questions. So I'm going to go through the first 4 questions I have in the QA already. So please feel free to go into the QA section and ask any questions of any of the panelists we have here. So Dr. Akasabi generated several different discussions. One of the questions I had was, are the culture teeth the only teeth in the library?
So to answer this question, yes, culture teeth are the only teeth in the library for the time being. However, additional teeth are considered into the future.
Okay, and then there was a question about whether or not they could share your presentation with their faculty. This is all being recorded, so you may want to contact Dr. Akasabi directly, and she can help you out there. I think that would probably be more appropriate there.
That should not be a problem. If you contact me, I can share the presentation, not a problem.
Great. The next question I have for you are the students also using intraoral scanners instead of the conventional impression techniques for complete dentures? If they are there any differences in how you can discuss, and can you discuss that?
No, at our school, although we have TRIOS intraoral scanners and emerald scanners, we are not using them for complete dentures. For complete dentures, we are using lab scanners to scan the casts.
So we had a question here that was asked about evaluating students. And I'd kind of put that out to everybody that's doing this. So if we can start with you, Dr. Akasabi, I mean, how do you evaluate your students using these digital pathways?
So what we did, I showed briefly in my presentation, we developed exercise sheets, step by step. It's some kind of similar to our conventional exercise sheet, and each item on the exercise has certain points. Okay. And by doing that, the faculty will initially give points for each item, and then we will have a final grade for each project.
So, Dr. Montero, so how do you guys do it? Are you still with me, Dr. Montero?
How do we evaluate the students?
Right.
Okay. Well, basically, they do the preparation of the teeth. They scan it, with Romexis, and then they export a STL file. They upload it in Compare software. They trace the lines. And then they create a report where it grades the student in different criterias. Then they can print that report, and we have a rubrics depending on the percentages and the numbers that they earn. They will fall into the rubrics, to say that way.
So each one of those sections in the compare has a tolerance, right? That has to fall within, and that's kind of how you do the grading.
Yes, so exactly. And each of the criteria also, they measure different things. It's not only the parameters, but also they measure, for example, if we are evaluating the margin width, it will tell you what is the maximum width of the margin, what is the minimum, what is the average. So yeah, the student can be graded in different ways.
Okay, so I had a question here from Dr. Rahman. He says, for the tooth preparation, how do you evaluate the path of draw or the taper?
Okay. Well, the taper, there is one of the criterias that is a total occlusal convergence, and that is evaluated by the lines that the student trace. One of the lines is on the line angle between the axial wall and the margin, and then the occlusal surface. The software is able to measure the convergence between the opposing axial walls. And then the path of insertion, that has to be, there is a tool where you can set up the path of insertion, but that will give you more if there are undercuts, but not really the path of insertion. The path of insertion is graded by the faculty. So our rubrics is not 100% dependent on the compare report, but also there is a faculty component.
Great. So Dr. Giuliano, how about you guys? How are you grading that process that you have for your dentures?
Well, what we did was, for some reason, my video says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. So I don't know why that's coming up, but doesn't really. I don't think you need to see me anyway. What we did was, it's an interesting question, and one of the things that we liked so much about this software, okay, was it's an automatic grading. So the perfect setup is 100%. So we batted this around a little bit. We had to come up with a passing grade. Mm-hmm. So when you go to the software and you play around with it a little bit, we kind of collectively agreed that it's really not terribly difficult to achieve a score of 90. Maybe the first time you do it, it's like anything else. I mentioned the learning curve. The first time we did these setups, would maybe take us a half an hour to figure out which button to click and how to move the images around. But now I could go on right now and do the first exercise in literally less than 5 minutes and get a 90. So we kind of figured collectively as a group, we just would set a passing grade that was not unachievable. We wouldn't say 95 or 97. We felt 90 was the cutoff, and every student had to submit all 5 exercises with 90 or above. Okay. And that's basically how we measured them.
Great. So let's see. So anybody else have any other questions there? I thought those are great answers. We have at least 48 people here, so somebody's got to have a question, right?
Grant, there was a question about how are we measuring the hinge axis of the patient if we are doing balanced occlusion. Did you see this question?
Now it must be on the chat, not on the Q&A. So,
Dr. Grant, if you look at your email, I sent you the chat questions.
Okay. I can see them directly. well, that being the question, so if anybody can answer that question, that'd be great.
Yeah, so what is unique about our system, when you scan the master cast, the scanner has a specialized plate. I'm gonna share my screen actually for a second to show that. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so there is a special plate. That plate here has fiducial markers. These are fiducial zirconia markers. And that plate becomes part of the lab scanner. What happens is when the case is articulated on an Artix Facebook, and that being said, we use the Facebook from Artix as well, all the information of the articulation, including the hinge axis recorded by Artix Facebook, including the maxillomandibular relationship, vertical dimension CR, everything is transferred very accurately through this plate and the lab scanner into the PDC software. By doing that, in the software, when you balance the occlusion, and you can keep moving the buttons here and there until the occlusion is really balanced. When you have the try-in and you check in the patient's mouth, we are having we are confirming the balance probably on every single tooth. I haven't seen that in the conventional workflow. So all the working side contact is there, or the balancing side contact is there, because the software also allows you to enter the condylar hinge, the condylar horizontal guidance angle, and if you want, you can confirm that with a protrusive record. So if you enter all the information into the system, you are getting a perfectly balanced denture. I'm not aware, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not aware of any other digital complete denture that allows for balanced occlusion, as far as I know.
So the other question might be to ask Ramon on Sarah Mills' Facebook that you guys have and developed. How does that play into this type of a question?
So Magyar provides the capability or ability to calibrate the articulators from one to another if they want to use different articulators. I think that was part of the question. We really don't have a lot to do. I think what is happening in this case is that we're providing the articulator, and the companies in the background are sharing some of that information to make sure that the precision also is transferred from the model to the scanner.
Okay, thanks. Dr. Montero, there was a question that asked you about the HIPAA compliance for OneDrive.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently OneDrive, it is HIPAA compliant, and I'm gonna read here a statement. And it says, that said, before OneDrive can be used to create, store, or send files containing the electronic protected health information of patients, HIPAA-covered entities must obtain and sign a BAA, which stands for HIPAA-compliant Business Associate Agreement. Okay, so they need to meet that standard, and I am not a HIPAA professional, but it is compliant.
So yeah, and I can help with that a little bit since IT has been my fight since the beginning of digital. Basically, most states have to, and universities have to sign a BAA with almost any software company that they have, because of the possibility that someone can get into whatever it is you have because it's on the internet. So if you're using Microsoft products and you have OneDrive, which is most likely what you have at your universities, they're almost all have BAAs with the university because of that. So for the most part, because it's HIPAA compliant, it also becomes kind of FERPA compliant because of the fact that you can restrict access. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest things that you want to look for when you do it to those systems. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Dr. Zadeh, you've dealt with this a few times.
I had a question with Kasabi, if you don't mind me ask her a follow-up question. The question that I do have you had any chair side, a lot of chair sides adjustment after insertion of the prosthesis or not?
That's a great question, Dr. Sadid. No, it's so accurate. It's really nice. However, we had a learning curve. It was our mistake at the beginning. In the software, there is a contact map. So personally, I didn't realize that when you have the purple color, that means collision. The contact is too high. When that happened, when we printed the try-in, we noticed that the incisal pin on the articulator is open. And we did some adjustment before they see the patient. But we learned from our mistakes. So next time, we adjusted the occlusion in the software so we don't have this collision. We have even occlusal contact. And then we have noticed that the try-in and the final denture needs minor adjustment. It's perfectly balanced.
Regarding to your question, Dr. Grant, for HIPAA, I think that every school has different regulations, and really they need to go back to their IT to ask their questions. For example, for us, our IT has a UB box that creates a share folder for everybody, and similar to Drive One that Dr. Montero said.
Great. So the question here for Dr. Giuliano. It says that you mentioned the digital is adjunct to the conventional. Have you seen any improvement in clinical experience of the students after this course?
The answer is not yet, because this is the first class we're using the software with. So I anticipate maybe we will after another year or two, and we have a little bit more data to look at, where we can actually maybe poll the faculty and see, you know, in your experience, is last year's class, did they do any better than this year's class, or any worse because they didn't have the software? So that's, stay tuned is the short answer to that.
Okay. And Dr. Kasabi, there's another question for you. It's how do you handle cases with undercuts, like in the retromolar areas, tuberosities? Doesn't the software block undercuts, or does this affect the retention?
So that is a great question. In the software, there is a feature to select your path of insertion. When we do that, we select the path of insertion that will include the minimal blockage of the undercuts.
Okay.
So the undercuts, yes, are being blocked, and when the denture comes in, it just, you know, fits in. We use PIP with minimal adjustments.
Okay. And Tim, this might be a good question for Avidant. Have you guys had any issues with that, with a lot of the dentures you guys have had delivered?
Jerry, what issue was that?
There's a question about how you handle undercuts in the retromyoid areas and large tuberosities, and does the software actually block out the undercuts, or?
It does. It does. We can do that block out in the software, so we take care of that. And some of it, you know, sometimes we do keep a little bit of it just to retain retention also. So it depends on what the situation is, but we take care of it in the software.
So you guys are minimizing your blockout is basically what to try and
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Any other
There's one more question in the Q&A from Dr. Unwin.
I got that. Did you have another one?
Yep, just came in right at the bottom.
I haven't got it yet. So where is that at? Is that under the QA?
Yes.
Oh. The last one I got was about the undercuts. Is that the one you're asking me about?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I read the wrong one. No, you're
no problem. You're ahead. He's trying to keep me honest so I don't miss anybody. There was a question about whether or not the Ceramel systems are open source. I mean, open platforms. And Ramon, you might want to just kind of go over that a little bit, if you can, about Ceramel's milling units.
Sure. Thank you for the question. The system is open. If we're speaking about the milling machine, it is open to receive practically any STL into its CAM software. Also, the software that we use is Exocad based. So the complete solution that we offer is open. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate the participation you guys had. This is recorded, so you guys can go back and kind of look at that. And if some of your colleagues couldn't make it to the discussion, it certainly is here for that, as well as the fact that it has the panelists on here. So feel free to contact them directly. I'm sure every panelist here will be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. And those people that are here from the industry side, please go visit their booths at the exhibit halls. They'll have a lot more information for you there, and you can get some contacts on how to directly interact with them. So where we go from here, again, COVID's kind of changed things. So it actually has kind of pushed digital, I think, more than we've seen in the past. It's kind of given a little boost, I think, to move along and how we do education with it. I hope that in the spring, when we have our educators, normally we have an educators meeting sometime with that. That'll be another time for us to look to maybe have another users meeting, and maybe in a different format with a little more time, a little more organized in different groups and things. So if anybody has any suggestions on the kind of things they would like to discuss, the kind of information they'd like to have, please feel free to forward that to me, and I will get that to Dr. Sadid, who is now the chair of the Digital Curriculum Committee, so working group. So we can kind of help to kind of organize that and put something together that works well for everybody. And again, the invitation is not necessarily just to schools, it's also to our industrial partners. As this usage is basically supposed to be a shared type of information where we work with each other to kind of come up with a common goal. Again, to stay on time, I want to thank you all for your participation, and I hope you have a great time at the meeting.